That's
Welcome to DRTSPR show. This is Dr. Tangella Shiva Prasad Reddy alias Dr. TSPR. Namaste, Adab, hello, and a warm welcome to a wonderful guest from the Central America, Austin, Texas. And he is a man of multifold and multidisciplines in culture and experiences. And I'm proud to introduce another gentleman, Prasad Jaladi, and how he is called. I'll show you his small description also. From America, and being an Indian, so much of knowledge. I feel proud and privileged to host him, as I've been doing other wonderful guests. I salute them, but because of them, these channels would not have survived with independence. Because here, anyone can participate from anywhere. The show will be as per rule of law, constitution, invoking evidential act with no enmity against individuals, nor animosity against parties or organizations. But remember what constitution says: you have to be vigilant. It is your life, the present and future for your kith and kin. If you don't understand, then it will be absolutely chaos now for the present, destroying the beautiful future for your own kith and kin. So that responsibility should always be there. That's why we say Article 51 GA. So many times we tell responsible citizen. And how should you live? He will explain. I'll not take much of the time. How should you live? What sort of life you are desiring? And what sort of development mode India or the world is adopting? Are they in symbiosis with nature? Nature means you are, as a human, you are a natural habitat. And natural habitat with, of course, with the nature or environment. Is that happening? Or the progress or development taking away everything and destroying that basic essence of symbiotic living? Sir, please.
Good morning, Dr. TSPR Garu. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope we will have an interesting conversation. So my travel to US is a little bit strange for me even today. I never thought I would land here. I was working in pharma industry. Basically, I did masters in organic chemistry in Bhavnagar, Gujarat. And I started working very early on. As soon as I finished my exams in a pharma company called Dr. Reddy's, and they are great and they are still existing now. So I had the privilege of working in a company under Dr. Murli K. He was the managing director of a company under Dr. Reddy's group called Keminar Drugs. So that's my first step into pharma industry. And I was working as a QC chemist then, and we got into FDA inspections, and we got out of that approval with flying colors, irrespective of many competitors in Hyderabad. The first product that involved in was ibuprofen, the popular anti-inflammatory. As a doctor, you know about that thing. So
Dr. Reddy Labs became famous.
Yes.
And notorious
So
also in US.
yeah, so that's how my humble journey in profession started. And since we're heading for FDA inspection within a short time, soon after I joined, I learned a few things. What are all these things? One hand, we are dealing with the chemicals. In between the reactions and the analysis and everything, and I started wondering, what is this FDA inspection about? I I understood. This is all about quality, right? So you have to prove as a quality guy, 1 milligram raw material purchased to 1 milligram finished product sold. Everything. If you are a QA guy or QC guy, your skin is in the game. That includes calibration of dryers, blenders, all this kind of stuff, including accelerators, stability studies, etc. So that was my humble beginning. There are so many things. This is all about proving the organization efficiency in managing things as FDA emphasizes, including quality specifications, etc. You have to deal with even normal solution to prove them. Are you sure when you analyze this particular product, your normal solution is up to the mark? So this is kind of validation that goes up to the electronic equipment, etc. So I found this is very interesting because it is instilling not only discipline and also challenging you to meet the challenges that they set forth in terms of quality, which is a beautiful approach, I believe.
Yes.
So since my early inception into that thing, I put myself in two frames. One is quality frame. Second is that regulatory framework, right? So you would work under specifications, standard operations, etc. So later on, I moved to other company, and then I was promoted as QA manager, and the real game in my life started happening.
That's
My previous gig was just entry level. Of course, I learned being a quick learner. I quickly made friends with management and my colleagues, and I used to discuss about a few things. While I'm doing these things, I also started noticing what are these things, raw materials that we are using. These are all chemicals, right? So good chemicals, bad chemicals.
I hope this will be a lesson for Indian administrators and politicians, the policymakers, what pharmacy and pharmaceutical is all about. Without understanding the basics, they promote and forgetting that the pharma and garments are the most polluting industries. At the same time, vital for your survival. But how do you balance it? Because it's going to pollute right from the ground, water, the air, till the air. So everything you drink, everything you breathe. That is why he has titled, I'll show you that logo also, because this should be an eye-opener for Indian administrators as well as politicians, and the commoners should get enlightened by this show because he has got so much of knowledge. And his title for the show, because he just venturing into the main subject now, the title of the show is very clear: how safe we are in this living. Are we eating what we should be eating? Eating plastics, drinking medicine, and breathing toxins. That is the topic of the day which he has given. I'll show you the logo which go with my flyer also. Sir, please go ahead now.
So yeah, with that kind of humble beginning, I always started thinking, well, we have a job to do to take care of ourselves and our families. And at the same time, we also have a responsibility, when you especially work with chemicals, they are not easy ones, trust me, I even worked with some samples that came as intermediates or testing. That includes sodium cyanide as well.
Oh,
This is crazy at my early career, and
I hope Russians and
but
North Koreans are listening to that.
yeah, they all do. When they touch chemistry, they always touch a hazardous
Sodium
chemical.
cyanide, yeah.
That's for granted, but how they handle these things with utmost scientific approach and also care. I'm saying these things with the pretense of, with the backdrop of the recent accident in Andhra Pradesh, right?
Yes.
So,
Tapuram.
um,
A minister goes, distributes checks instead of a home minister, instead of understanding why this incident happened and what is the destruction it has created, and what about the other branches or factories which are relocated. And it's a US company. Mind-boggling. And the Prime Minister,
mhm.
Chief Minister of Nara Chandrababu Naidu is also visiting, but without formally understanding what has happened and who is going to be blamed for this. Precious
Yes.
lives, and burns, still they are suffering. Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
I agree with you. I agree with you. When I worked in pharma industry, I still remember, I always um, um, think about this thing. I have some roommates who used to be very, very responsible and in charges for different departments, right?
Yeah.
The process runs in two, three departments.
Yeah.
So even though it's none of my business, I used to run with them to do fire extinguishing, etc.
Yeah.
Being young shops, we don't know where we are, what we are getting into. But on the anxiety of saving somebody's, the company property basically, and see that nothing would get into blasted conditions, so on and so forth. So this incident in particular brought my memories back. I always used to say to my friends, working with chemicals is always like sleeping with a snake. So we need to be really careful. That's why all these norms and regulatory frameworks and also management frameworks and including the safety parameters on each phase and steps are being emphasized, and they have to be practiced like a devotion, like a worship. You pray God, right? This is that serious. Otherwise, we not only put ourselves in danger, but also put our colleagues in danger. And guess what? That leads to property damage, and sometimes people may lose lives also. I can go on talking about these things forever, but I remember telling everyone, safety first. Safety first. We have to come with that discipline. We have to learn the art of working there safely first, so that we could think of profits and other accolades that we expect, obviously, when we excel in the business. These are all the fundamental steps that we need to take care before we do anything. So that's how I grew up in the industry, and one thing led to other. And I was observing the chemicals, and I had my fun moments of improving processes. Like if a reaction runs for a time of 24 hours plus, I made that happen in 3 hours. And some exothermic reactions, are like very dangerous chemicals. Again, nitromethane, MITC. This is a perfect Bhopal recipe. If we remember that.
Tragedy.
Yeah, so these things used to, obviously these things are exothermic, and I used to manage these reactions at room temperature, which weren't there before, right? So these are all things that I worked on. So whatever I did, many professionals in pharma industry and chemicals, they're also very disciplined, and they come with all these careful steps. And I don't brag about my success. It's a journey. I take it as a responsibility. And of course, I might be leading the team, or idea might be mine, but without team, we cannot achieve those things.
But
Especially
Prasad ji, here I'd like to interrupt, but this is an American company where the tragedy in Achutapuram has happened. How is that they are employing those less calibered or less experienced, or those who do not have any idea about these chemical reactions in their factories? And how is that their quality and analysis wing is allowing that? And how is that the governments are keeping quiet? And more so when it is a American company, don't you think the Americans also, when buying such products, don't they inquire? Now, precious lives have been lost, and the environmental destruction, we don't know what it's going, and they're unable to understand what happened. Is it the reactor blast or whatever it is, so and so forth. But the chemicals, I mean, the vapor, whatever they say, which is leaked, and it was highly, this thing wherein those who have survived or surviving are finding it very difficult to, so pungent it was, it seems. How do you look at this scenario when you compare it with your developing, developed country and the so-called progressive Vishwa Bharat, we say? Vishwa Bharat doesn't understand the science and the safety norms and what is good, what is bad.
Yeah. In terms of safety and other administrative purpose and qualification, the first step is to recruit qualified people. They need to know what they are doing job-wise, every step of it. They need to be trained about the situation that may go out of hand also. We contemplate scenarios based on the reaction, reactants, and the reaction process, etc. So it is like a flight chart, right? When you when your flight leaves from the tarmac, the pilot has all the controls in his control, and I mean the flight controls are in his control, literally. And he would maintain that thing to take off, and he might be running on autopilot, but he should be vigilant. And at the same time, when the plane lands, he needs to make a smooth landing and let the passengers reach to their destination very safely. Same thing also applies here. You need to have every nitty-gritty information, and you need to maintain the controls with the qualified people. And there are batch sheets. Every second, every few minutes, you would be noticing and noting the conditions on the batch sheets, etc. These norms are more or less same in any country, but negligence on duty and not able to identify the wrong path, that the reaction or any leak or anything abnormal happening pertain to that particular batch, need to be noticed all time around until the reaction is over, and until that employee leaves home safely. This has to be the everyday work. But sometimes mistakes do happen, but most of these things are human negligence. Prevention is prevention is better than cure, kind of thing. We need to be vigilant on every pipe and every valve and every temperature gauge and every jacket that a reactor has, and everything needs to be inspected before, during, and after. If we get a doubt on those things, it would be easy to take preventive measures rather than getting into trouble.
So
If
that's
we
very well
don't
said.
follow these routes,
Yeah.
accidents do happen. And what is the consequences? What is the consequence? Depending on the nature of the reaction and and other parameters that are involved in that particular scenario, right? So if a blast happens next to the other solvents which can easily catch fire, that would amplify the damage, right? So and of course, people uh, working around that area, etc., ventilations and also exits, etc., and alarms also. Sometimes there would be sensors which would give an alarm based on the volatile measures that are in that surrounding. So these are all the safety measures that a company should take for every reaction. So unless the company won't pay attention through the employees every minute over there, it is really hard to escape as accidents. So we need to be mindful of those things. Of course, fatigue. Sometimes people work overtime, and fatigue develops, and they may not be able to focus on those things. Sometimes these things would also impact the quality of workers' efficiency, right? So there are so many things that would happen. But
As you rightly said, more fundamentally, you should
yes.
have a knowledge about your chemical enterprise, pharma industry, what pharma it is, what is that you are going to do, and what are the pollutants which you are going to release, and before, what is the process exactly involved. Am I right, sir? And how trained and
Yes.
efficient employees you have, and those who is heading these organizations, they're all their kith and kin with no background or idea. Just they pump money and they want to do. They say we are trying to create jobs, employment, and they say this industry is vital for the survival of human beings, but the survival of human beings is taken away. Their right to life is taken away by this pharma industry. As you rightly coined the term, dealing with chemicals is like sleeping with snakes. How is that the politicians don't understand? And I just try to play a video which I've sent. Yeah. Because this is what I just wanted to make.
Yes.
దేశాల నుండే నిర్మిద్దాం, విదేశీ వ్యామోహం తగ్గిద్దాం.
Yes, yeah, I have something to
Why?
share on
Because
that
this
thing.
is more fundamental until and unless, and this is also కాలుష్యాన్ని నివారిద్దాం, నవ భారతాన్ని నిర్మిద్దాం. So
Yes.
the lack of knowledge also, don't you think it is playing into all these things? Can you just explain? Yeah, lack of knowledge and lack of thinking or proper policy, because you have these Babus, IAS, IPS selected through UPSC, NTA, sitting there and they are permanent. Politician parties come and go, but they should have at least knowledge. Why?
Yeah, I think we have to step back a bit, sir. The reason being, it all starts with the founder himself or herself, right? So before they do, they need to come up with a team that would put everybody at ease in terms of the honest approach towards the details of what they want to do, and how much they want to do all those things. In many cases, we are burdened by so much pressure, right? This pharma industry grew exponentially in recent decades, and it's a lucrative business also. So to continue my thoughts where we left before, so when we establish a company, and we have to take care the framework up to um, a scenario of incident happenings, right? So what do you do when an incident of this magnitude happens? What is your action, in that crisis? So it is a chaos, like like a war, right? People get hurt, and how soon they need medical treatments is also a thing to discuss. How far are we, and what are the things? Other staff who may not be technical people should also collaborate with management and do these things in the shortest time possible, so that we can at least save those people with starting with first aid, and also taking them to the hospital in time, so that they don't lose life. So this is a contingency plan as a package for any operations in general. So talking about these things in US or anywhere also, the norms are more or less same, but there is something going on. In countries like US, it is really hard to convince EPA on so many things. And this kind of incidents even happened in the US in mid-60s, etc. Actually, they burnt rivers, putting chemicals into the river, and that river burned like crazy. So this happened in Ohio also. So they learned a lot with their own experiences, and companies like DuPont also invented certain things like Teflon. And that's another game, right? That's not a pharma company, but again, these are all chemicals, and they coated on cooking utensils and said to the world, hey, these are all the beautiful things to use, right? To clean as well. But everybody got excited, including myself. I'm a chemist, but again, I have a basic knowledge on what would go wrong when we deal with a no product, right? These are all the new technologies getting into the market, and we have no idea. No, we are not experts either. And the governments, on the sake of getting in new businesses and taxes and employment, whatnot, they allow those things. But the problem here is the management knows early on what is really going on with their products, and they hide that truth. And before it comes out, many people get cancers and all this kind of stuff. Same thing happened with the fossil fuels. Fossil fuel companies knows that the global temperature would raise in long back, maybe late 70s. And it was evident by 1984 that it is causing global warming, and none paid attention. Those who are all like minority like us, they were telling the world, hey, this is going to happen. But look at us, we increase the temperature of every city now. right? Now we are thinking we have ACs and this thing, well, we can cool the room inside, but again, the same AC heats outside of the room temperature. So these are all the interlinked things that we need to
And
deal
not
with,
only
right?
that, like
Not many people.
America also goes for artificial rain, spraying all that military and all. The same thing is happening around the world. The sudden burst of cloud burst and all.
Yes, there
New
is a
phenomena.
story.
That is where you said we are
Yeah,
eating plastics, we are drinking medicines, and we are breathing toxins because
right.
everything is
So
chemicalized. The world is
yeah,
chemicalized.
there is a scientific reason even for the cloud bursts all of a sudden, right? So here is the fundamental fact. Many people know about it, but ignore it anyway. They don't connect the dots and they think it is none of their business. Actually, it should be their business. The reason is simple. If we increase the temperature by 1% wherever, the water evaporation rate increases. For
Yes.
every degree increased, the water holding capacity of a cloud would be increased by 7%. So when that cloud is overloaded with that kind of water, when it passes by where it rains, it usually rains hard than usual, right? And unfortunately, what we did is we reduced the land that would absorb water through the capillary system, and we paved pavements, and we paved roads, and we built buildings, and through these things we created a heat trap. And when it rains like crazy, the water sometimes in an hour, like 20 centimeters in an hour kind of thing, it's a huge thing, and water doesn't know where to get absorbed. So every street obviously turned out as a river or a canal, right? So if you are lucky, it would be a stream. If you are not that much lucky, it would be a river. If you are not even that lucky, it would be an ocean, maybe for sometimes. And here is the dangerous part. When we put the water on the ground, on the road or anywhere, we drive vehicles, right? These vehicles leak oil and everything. These are all again chemicals, right? So that get mixed, and then they enter into streams, they enter into the rivers, and they enter into the ocean simultaneously. While it is happening, if there is any land there that could absorb this water, that water would also seep into the capillaries and settles as a groundwater, right? So guess what happens? Through our bore wells or through our public water systems, we still bring in that water to households. Perhaps we might be drinking that water also. Say, for example, in Hyderabad, maybe in the late 70s, again, maybe early 80s, there was a Swedish team that found that there are about 10 to 12 medicines in groundwater of Hyderabad. This is 1981 story. If we look into the same aspect now, we might be having 50s of, I'm just throwing a number. I don't want to scare people, but this is reality, folks. So that's what we are doing on the name of development. Well, we need medicines, but again, we are dealing with something extraordinary that we are not accounting for. So who knows these things? Those who are starting these companies. Many of these guys are educated in foreign land, right? This thing is not happening in US or any Western country. The reason is simple. We haven't strengthened our regulatory system. I'm not trying to blame anybody.
Yes, we are to be sure.
We
We are speaking the truth, and
right.
that is why at least Hyderabad should be proud. Instead of 35 medicines in the ground level, now we might be having more medicines. Why should we
Yes.
have a pharma unit and then manufacture and doctors prescribe? We directly have it from our ground, from our borewell. Hyderabad is bestowed with that. Hyderabad is a global city. Yeah, please.
Yeah. We have everything mixed up there. It's emotional because I work there. I also feel really bad about that thing. It's
That's why
not
we are
only that.
drinking medicine now. We are drinking medicines, and then the
Yes,
plastic also will come to
yes.
your discussion
Yeah,
now.
if you want to bring that up, that makes sense for many people. Otherwise, it's a gibberish statement, right?
We have 10 minutes to go. We have 10 minutes to go, Prasad ji.
Sure.
Last 10 minutes.
So Yeah, so these are all the interlinked things, and we need to think before we start all those things. And this is at the end of the day, if we don't take care, we are making people suffer. We may be making money, but again, people do suffer, and from where the money is coming, right? So, and we need to have some kind of limit on what we are doing, how much we would do, and geographically spread out.
Let me ask you this question very straight. In the name of creating health or treating those diseased or trying to prevent from getting diseased, don't you think so? This pharma industry, as you have rightly said, in 81, 82, the Hyderabad ground level, if they have 50s of 35 medicines in the borewells, what will happen to entire India if they just, and in the name of this prevention and treatment, don't you think they're all actually making them to go sick? When you try to say the highly water is polluted and the air, what sort of toxins they release, you have to explain to us. And what is the plastic which we are going to eat? And top of that, these pharma industries, these blasts or accidents as Achutapuram, and we have seen during COVID-19 time also, Andhra, big those polymers and all, many, and in Hyderabad also, in industrial areas, many blasts and killing people, precious lives, instead of saving them, treating them from disease, if they are killing them with these reactions and with the toxins, with the pollutants which they are releasing into the ground and well as releasing into the air, how do you think that this pharma industry is really good for the humans?
Well, there are two sides of that coin. One is, healthcare. They certainly do take care of health to some extent. If we overdo anything, ati sarvatra varjayet. It applies to everything, right? Including food we eat, right? So we have to understand our limits there. We started pretending that we are the masters of the universe. We can handle everything, but we actually don't know what it would do to our body when we swallow that medicine. Not many. That includes nutraceuticals, right? It varies from person to person, but we generalize and do those things. Until now, we are talking about just pharma industry. Let's not blame only pharma industry. There are other industries also, like fossil fuel industries, fertilizer companies, paint companies. It is a mix of every nonsense that we could imagine that is happening to us. There is one more thing. Speaking of air pollution, uh, one person out of 5 people are dying because of the air pollution in the world. It is about 8 million a year. Nobody talks about that thing, right? So we feel like, it's okay. We all feel nowadays, if whenever I come to Hyderabad, I feel some kind of, odd taste on my lips. That is because of the carbon dioxide, and its remnants released into the air, right? So these are all the things happening. And guess what? Every 2 kids under 5 years of age is using nebulizer. Why? We're not paying attention why it is happening. It is happening because of the air pollution. That means we are exposing those young children, young lungs to these toxins. Imagine a child going through having the issue of air pollution, and his young lungs cannot handle that thing. And that would put that child in trouble, perhaps lifelong, right? We know these all these issues, right? But the problem is medical companies making medicines, doctors are prescribing, and the patients are using. But we are not talking about why it is happening. And including doctors, everybody forgot prevention is better than cure. And we are all traveling like crazy, spewing carbon dioxide in our cities, like there is no tomorrow. And we have no time to think about all these sensitive issues. We are earning more, but again, we are burning more money also unnecessarily on healthcare, right? Look at the cancer rise in recent decades. It is hitting largest number, right? So every department is doing its own job without fixing the basic problem. This seems
Your
to be a
attention,
Doing
please.
this.
This is an important announcement.
Just play it again. This is wonderful. What you have done it. Really wonderful.
Your attention, please. This is an important announcement.
సమయం లేదు మిత్రమా, కాలుష్య విలయం ముంచుకొస్తుంది, విఘ్నతతో నిర్మూలించి పురోగమిద్దాం. Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. Hats off to you. And don't
Thank
you
you,
think
sir.
this type of development process by America, giving us these machines run at the ideal temperature, air conditioning is must. And don't you think we are still not having compatible the hardwares also in relation to the climates, whether it is tropical Indian or different types of climates in Europe and US. So what are your, and then what is that plastic which we are eating? We have 3 minutes, sir, please.
Right. So there are so many plastics that would break into microplastics, and it is even entering into the placenta of an unborn child. So my heart breaks whenever I explain these things to different groups, right? So people are not aware of these things. That includes the wrappers of the food that we get, order, all these things. Typically, it was estimated that a person in current date is ingesting around 40 kilograms of plastic in their life. This is true statistic. 40 kilograms of plastic in their lifetime, just like food, right? But these are all there. That includes PFAS, etc., which are again giving cancer to adults and also to the kids. So that's why the number of cancers are increasing, and we need to avoid those things. People talk about recycling plastics, etc. I tell that is a wrong thing. Not many plastics are useful to be resynthesized, at least. People talk about certain technologies. They again generate dioxins through incinerations, etc. There is no straightforward fix to the plastic problem as of today, including recycling. We are not doing even 6% worldwide. Even in US, it is less than 8% today. So we need to wake up on all these things. We should not buy all these things to be precise, right? We should stop all these things. The government needs to pay attention to regulate all those things. They must act now, and we need to educate politicians also. Otherwise, they are all looking for their next election. They have no time on these things. So we have to educate people like yourself, myself, and other folks should sit with them and explain them these are all the things that are happening around us, so that we can always come to a conclusion with a consented decision to draw our own laws, so that we can not only protect ourselves but also other people. That includes animals. Animals also suffer due to these things. Those poor things have no voice to tell us, right? But we know it happens to us, it happens to them also. And even ocean is getting polluted. Ocean is not absorbing heat at all. That's why they are turning acidic, and we are pushing everything into the ocean at the end of the day. Whatever happens from our home through our bathrooms would end up one day in oceans, most of it, right? So we need to take care of that thing. We are killing fish and coral reefs and mangroves also with our bad attitude. So we have to bring change to our lifestyle. The reason is simple. We traditionally as Indians are nature worshippers. We started with Panchabhuta worship. Look where we are now. We don't care anything.
Right.
We have to come back to our roots. And if you want to be a Vishwaguru, you have one thing to say on sustainability. Indians have been sustainable nation all along the history, all these centuries. But somewhere along we lost in transition. It is time again come back to our senses, go back to the roots, and we adapted all the technologies. You name anything. IT, pharma, biotech, semiconductors, and also these
We'll come back individually.
fiber optics, etc.
We come back. Thank you very much. We will come back.